Leave him destitute like the legend says.
When news broke that a Clayface movie had officially been greenlit for the DC Universe, it felt like a huge deal, especially for longtime Batman fans. Clayface has always stood out as one of Batman's most compelling enemies in the comics, but for whatever reason, he's never really been given his due in live action. That's why it's such a refreshing change to see him finally getting the spotlight, especially since his story has so much depth and emotional weight. By putting the focus on him now, DC is giving audiences a real chance to see just how much storytelling potential Clayface brings to the table. The movie is currently scheduled to drop in September 2026, which actually places it just a few months after the debut of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow in June. But what really pushes Clayface into must-see territory is the way it's leaning into horror. According to DC Studios co-chair Peter Safran, who shared details during a presentation attended by Screen Rant, the film is being described as body horror. That direction changes the entire way we might see Clayface. He's no longer just a typical comic book villain. Instead, the story is going to dig into the terrifying reality of what it would be like to physically turn into a shape-shifting, clay-based creature. And it makes total sense. The success of Joker in 2019 proved that there's definitely a market for these darker, more tragic supervillain origin stories. Even though Clayface is set to be quite different in tone and style, the fact that it shares that same core idea of looking deeper into the villain's humanity is a good sign. The emotional intensity, paired with the grotesque transformation, gives the movie room to do something pretty bold. Especially since Clayface will be rated R, the filmmakers will have more creative freedom to really explore how nightmarish that transformation can be. Sure, not every superhero movie needs to be R-rated to feel mature or meaningful, but in this case, it opens up new possibilities for storytelling. Just like Joker took advantage of its rating to push emotional and thematic boundaries, Clayface could really benefit from not having to tone anything down. And honestly, the horror aspect needs that space to breathe. It's the kind of story that begs to be intense and a little disturbing. Interestingly, this movie wasn't even part of the original plan for the DC Universe. During an interview in December 2024, James Gunn revealed that the idea to make Clayface only came about after horror writer and director Mike Flanagan pitched it, and apparently the pitch was so strong that it completely changed the game. Even Gunn himself was surprised by how compelling it was, which speaks volumes about what Flanagan brought to the table. So the movie's very existence comes from someone being genuinely passionate and inspired, which often makes for the best kind of project. What makes things even more exciting is that Clayface is reportedly taking some inspiration from a fan-favorite Batman story. In an interview with comicbook.com in June 2024, Flanagan talked about how the movie is drawing from the Batman the Animated Series two-parter, Feet of Clay. He mentioned how that version of Clayface, voiced by Ron Perlman, left a big impression on him as a kid, and how it played a key role in shaping his vision for the movie. For many fans, the animated series was the definitive version of Batman, and hearing that this film will be channeling some of that same energy is a big win. For those who haven't seen Feet of Clay, it tells the origin story of actor Matt Hagen, who ends up permanently disfigured after being forced to overdose on a facial-altering chemical by the gang he's working for. Once the transformation takes hold, he essentially loses his human identity altogether. It's dark, emotional, and a little unsettling, especially for a kid's show, but it's also a masterclass in showing how a villain can be both dangerous and deeply sympathetic at the same time. Hagen's pain and anger feel justified, even as he slips further into his monstrous new persona. The story also mixes in a really clever plotline where Clayface uses his shape-shifting ability to frame Bruce Wayne for crimes that were actually orchestrated by corporate villain Roland Daggett. So in just 2 episodes, it manages to deliver emotional depth, strong action, psychological horror, and a nuanced take on morality. If Flanagan's script is truly pulling from that episode, it sounds like we're in for a powerful mix of tragedy, tension, and transformation. Given how formulaic some superhero movies have become over the years, something as fresh and different as Clayface might be exactly what audiences are craving. There's no cosmic war, no multiverse chaos, just a deeply personal, horrifying journey of a man losing his identity and grappling with what he's become. That's not just compelling for fans of Batman, it could resonate with anyone who enjoys psychological horror or character-driven dramas. And if it also expands the mythology of Gotham City in a new direction, all the better. What's cool is that even if you stripped away the DC branding, the concept of Clayface would probably still work. A story about an actor whose obsession with image and identity leads to a horrific transformation feels like something straight out of an indie horror film, and that's a good thing. But since it is part of the DCU, it also brings in that added bonus of being part of a bigger, interconnected world. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, a self-contained character study that still fits into a larger universe. Not long after the film was announced, rumors started flying that Daniel Radcliffe was being considered for the lead role. That got a lot of people excited, especially because Radcliffe's post-Harry Potter career has been filled with unexpected and offbeat roles. From Swiss Army Man to Guns Akimbo to Weird the Al Yankovic story, he's shown a real knack for diving into strange characters and making them work. So when fans heard his name tossed around for Clayface, it felt like a surprisingly good fit. Even though James Gunn later shut down those rumors, explaining in a February 2025 Threads post that casting hadn't even started yet, he didn't rule it out entirely. He made it clear that they hadn't talked to Radcliffe simply because the director hadn't been locked in yet, and without a director, casting hadn't begun. Still, Gunn's known for paying attention to fan suggestions, and he's admitted in the past that he sometimes checks online fan casting just to see if anyone sparks new ideas. So the fact that Radcliffe's name has already been floated could mean he's at least on the radar. Honestly, Radcliffe might be one of the best choices they could go with. He has solid horror experience, having starred in films like The Woman in Black and Horns, and he's proven over and over again that he's not afraid to take risks. In the end, whether or not Radcliffe is cast, Clayface already feels like it's shaping up to be one of the most intriguing projects in the DCU. It's different, it's risky, and it's got a bunch of elements that aren't typically explored in comic book movies. That kind of bold, creative direction is exactly what the franchise needs right now. With Mike Flanagan writing and possibly directing, an R rating to push the horror, and a story that goes deep into character and emotion, Clayface could be something really special, not just for Batman fans, but for anyone ready for a new kind of superhero movie. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.